My story is very complicated, but I will summarize it. I was born an Anglican, grew up an Anglican of several generations. But then, on account of my exposure, in the course of my movement in life, I had been exposed to several other ministries and other influences. At the University of Ilorin, Adeboye was a lecturer. E.A. Adeboye was a mathematics lecturer at Ilorin. He was the one teaching us at the fellowship. And so I gravitated towards him. He became like a mentor to me when he was still a pastor of the Redeemed Christian Church of God at Savoke Ilorin. Early in life, he mentored me to a point. When I was there also, Oyedepo was just a student of the Polytechnic Ilorin. We were sharing the same compound with the University of Ilorin there. He started a ministry at Ilorin Teachers College. I was there with my wife-to-be later. So I grew up. So when Winners Chapel started his ministry, I was there. I was exposed to him, close to him. Then he went to Kaduna. And when later on he came to Lagos to start Winners Chapel at New Era Road, I was part of the first 40 people that started the Winners Chapel there. We were sitting on police benches there. We were very young at that time. I knew all that. So I had been exposed to all this. And then I was exposed to W.F. Kumuyi as far back as 1970s. I had been there close to him, close to his ministry when Deeper Life was starting. So having been exposed to Adeboye, to Oyedepo, to Kumuyi and all that, eventually I got a job at Lagos State University and I was living in Badagry, staying with a cousin of mine who was very active in the Four Square Gospel Church. Because I lived in his house, we worshiped with them together. I was exposed to the Four Square Gospel Church. And then eventually, I continued as a lecturer there. Incidentally, I now decided to say, okay, let me go to the Anglican Church ministry. I now was in the Anglican Church Seminary in Lagos Anglican Diocesan Seminary at that time. And something very, very dramatic happened to me. I was gifted in evangelism. And then a church that I had been familiar with in 1973 invited me to come and minister. And it was during their harvest. And the man was into prophetic ministry. As soon as I finished ministering, the man embarrassed me. He took the microphone. He said, "Thus says the Lord. This young man has been appointed by the Lord as an apostle. I am asked to hand over this ministry to this young man, and I should go about on worldwide evangelism." I was just a guest minister, a young man in seminary, and this man made an announcement before everybody. I was embarrassed. And he said, "Come down, young man, let me pray for you." And I came down. He just, without telling me before, anointed me and prayed for me, and that was the end of the matter. 3 months after that, the man was on a crusade in Kaduna. He had a stroke. They flew him abroad. And when he went abroad, the church was now leaderless. I was in the seminary, a delegation came. Said, "We were there when they anointed you. This man has stroke now. We're not too sure about his condition of health. He's outside this country. Please come and take over this place." I resisted, and God said, "Go." So I got there, and I became a general overseer. I had to suspend my seminary training. Eventually, I went back to Archbishop Vine in Akure later on, and for my ceremony. I was already a professor when I went to Vine at that time. So I had to take it up as an evangelistic call because the man was in the critical condition, the place was leaderless, and I had to reluctantly assume duty. So I started my pastoral ministry as a general overseer of a church, started climbing from the ladder. I was a bishop wearing purple. I became an archbishop wearing purple. I had 4 bishops under me, one in the north, one in the east, one in Kwara, and one in Lagos. My bishop in Lagos was Bishop F.L.O. Menkiti, a former federal permanent secretary under the government of Yakubu Gowon. He was the one who announced the election result between Shagari and Awolowo. Big people were under me. So I was an archbishop and a bishop. I ordained over 38 ministers into ministry, 10 in London, 2 in America, 2 in Germany, established about 16 churches. As far back as 1996, I had my own television program, Moment of Hope, on Lagos Television, 1996, with Dapo Ashaju. So we had gone far. I had started. Then God said to me, "I took you around all these churches. I took you around this leadership position. I exposed you for a purpose because you have a work to do in the Anglican Church. Go back to your church now and release this." Thanks be to God. The man had recovered a little bit and he had returned from overseas. He survived the stroke. And I simply told him, "Sir, this is your church. God has enabled me to do this much. I'm going back to the Anglican Church, continue from where I stopped in my seminary, and go on. So I now relinquish all those. An archbishop, a general overseer, with many children of the Lord in the Lord all over the world. Big people, big ministers were coming to minister in my church. And then I handed over. I said, look, now that you are well enough, you can take it up again. Maybe God wanted me to fill in the gap during the period when you were ill. But for me, I started climbing my pastoral ladder from the top. So God now brought me down. I now went back to my bishop, Archbishop Abiodun Adetiloye. I'm wearing his ring, and I'm wearing his pectoral cross now. And so he said, "This, my son, you are the one we watch every Sunday on television." I said, "Yes." "You are coming back to the church?" I said, "Yes." I never left the Anglican church. It was just a call to duty, circumstantial interruption. And he laughed. And he said, "You know where you are going to come back to?" He said, "You are going to become an ordinand, the most junior in the rank." And then I came back to the Anglican church. He now put me at St. Michael's Anglican Church, Ojo, under Venerable Adebamiwa. And there I was a postulant, ordinand, the most junior in the procession. And after about 6 months, he decided to ordain me as a deacon. When I was ordained a deacon, the Guardian newspaper put it as a back cover page. General Overseer of so Church, reordained deacon in the Anglican Church. And so I humbled myself, and to the glory of God, I served there, was posted to Epiphany Church. I was posted to some other churches. Eventually, I became the chaplain of Lagos State University Chapel. And then eventually, I was taken to Church of Transfiguration, Lagos, the K2 Lagos. And I became a canon under Baba Debiyi. And then I became an archdeacon also under Baba Debiyi until I was elected in 2009 as the Bishop Theologian right here at the Basilica of Grace, Abuja here, under Baba Peter Jasper Akinola. So that has been my story. But then I was a professor at Birmingham University in 2003. And during that period, I got the license of the Archbishop of Canterbury, Rowan Williams, to be a priest in the Church of England. And Archbishop John St. Tamu, the Archbishop of York, was my pastor as the Bishop of Birmingham. So I had been exposed to the English church as a priest in the Church of England during the period of my professorship there. And something happened. When I was elected bishop, I was sent by Baba Akinola to Lambeth Palace to represent the Church of Nigeria at a theological forum. And there I had a heated argument with the Archbishop of Canterbury over their romance with Islam. He suddenly turned to me. He said, "Are you not the professor who has just been elected bishop in the Anglican Church of Nigeria?" I said, "Yes, yes, Your Grace." He said, "Meet me in Canterbury tomorrow. I have a gift for you." I went to Canterbury the following day, which was a Sunday, on St. Nicholas Day, right at the same place where Jack Crowther was consecrated. And he said, "I have a gift for you." And he called me, and he said to me, "Young man, God will use you for the Anglican communion, and the gift I have for you is my pectoral cross." He said this pectoral cross was given to me by George Carey, former Bishop of Canterbury. He gave to me, but God said I should give it to you and pray for you. So he gave me the pectoral cross of George Carey and his own and prayed for me. That was the cross I wore when Baba Akinola consecrated me, the first bishop theologian, on the 10th of January 2010. My story has been that of just service and exposure. It's God's hand moving me. I don't know where I'm going. I don't know. I only move according to his leading.